Kulai let out a furious roar and charged straight at our boy. The moment Lin caught sight of the weapon in his hands, something clicked in his mind. He recalled seeing it before, a while back on the upper level, so he figured they must have been from the same clan. With all that being said, he had to admit it wasn't easy to kill that dude. Now, with Thunder Burial Canyon just ahead and who knows what hiding inside, Lin told himself it wasn't smart to waste his mighty soldier just yet. But the problem now is that taking Kulai down in one blow was out of the question, so it leaves him no choice but to wear them down slowly. In the blink of an eye, he unleashed the upgraded poison starburst. The toxic mist spread faster than Kulai expected, forcing him to stumble backward in alarm. But Lin didn't give anyone a chance to breathe. He ordered the Lich General to cast the poison ring, and instantly, every little skelly lit up with buffs, weapons raised high as they rushed in like a storm. The sudden power boost left the elite demon squad completely dazed. They were already outnumbered, and now they were getting torn apart. Mina, watching from the sidelines, whispered in disbelief that the Dark Sky Demon King's elite squad couldn't even fight back against Lin, causing fear to creep onto her face. Meanwhile, Kulai realized his strength was slipping away bit by bit. Sharp pain spread through his body, and green liquid started dripping from his eyes, nose, and mouth. He knew if he dragged this on, it would mean certain death. Desperation twisted across his face as he flapped his wings wildly, blowing the toxic mist aside. Then, with a furious cry, he began summoning the demon ancestor. The surrounding mist burst away as streams of purple light rose from the demons, gathering in the sky. Slowly, a giant figure began to form. Mina's heart skipped a beat as she never thought Kulai could summon a Lord-level demon ancestor, even if it's just a projection. A massive avatar loomed behind Kulai, its spear pointing forward as it declared the end of our boy. Lin frowned, already tired of this kind of trick. Judging by its aura, it was no stronger than that angelic spirit. Still, it meant no more holding back. Taking a deep breath, he decided to go all in and used mighty soldiers. Kulai scoffed, saying Lin's effort was pointless, adding that the projection carried the will of the ancestors, and further explained that nothing Lin did could hurt him. But Lin only chuckled softly, questioning if that's really the case. He raised his hand and released the soul flame. Boosted by mighty soldiers, the flame shot down like a falling star, slamming right onto the giant avatar. The result was, well, you can probably guess. It was like a slap to the face, because in the next scene, Kulai started screaming, and the rest of the demons weren't spared either. The pain clawed at their very souls, and their formation crumbled in an instant. Lin couldn't help but smirk, saying it seemed this projection was tied to every single one of their souls. How convenient. Without wasting a second, he ordered the trusty skellies to finish them off. Kulai, meanwhile, panicked and shouted for everyone to pull their souls back and shield up with their protective flames. But he was already too late. One skelly sliced through a demon's neck like it was nothing. Kulai stared in disbelief, wondering how a level 50 summon could be so powerful. Mina, on the other hand, felt a chill creeping down her spine. She already knew where this was heading. Just as she was about to flee, a strange force brushed past her senses. She turned sharply, and Kulai let out a bitter laugh. He admitted to himself there was no other way, and he'd have to use that move, even if it would cost him dearly. After all, dying wasn't an option. The moment the demons around him hear him say that, they knew exactly what he was planning. Almost in unison, they declared their loyalty to the demon lord, vowing to offer up their lives. Without hesitation, Kulai led the way, driving his weapon straight through his chest. One after another, the others followed. His voice rose as he began chanting, and he began summoning the Dark Sky Demon Lord. Their blood surged upward like a crimson tide. Then, with a sudden shudder, the sky dimmed. A massive vortex tore open above them, a dark portal greedily sucking away their life force. Mina instantly understood what they were up to. She was shocked, realizing they were trying to summon the Dark Sky Demon Lord himself. In her mind, Lin was already done for. Lin's expression shifted as the powerful aura washed over him, and he knew this was a big threat. He remarked that there'd be no way out for him if that thing actually descends. With no time to waste, he pulled out a chunk of the poison god's blood. If a mere explosion of that wasn't enough, then, well, he'd have to use the poison god's corpse for a full corpse explosion. Kulai, all weak and battered but still grinning like a madman, announced Lin is for sure dead this time. From inside the swirling portal, a massive pair of hands stretched through. Lin flung the blood forward, and a heartbeat later, it detonated. A violent surge of toxic energy slammed into the portal. A horrific scream echoed from beyond, and the pair of hands suddenly snapped back, writhing in agony, trying to extinguish the flame climbing up its body. Meanwhile, the portal began to collapse, its energy spilling out like a storm. The closest demon didn't even have time to scream before the poisonous energy swallowed him whole. Lin quickly realized perhaps the dark sky demon lord wasn't on the same level as the poison god. The blast didn't just stop the portal, it devoured everything. The poison burned through the ranks, leaving Kulai frozen in shock. He couldn't understand where the demon lord went, or why his body was now melting away. Terror twisted his face as he cried out, demanding to know what kind of poison could do this. In his last desperate moment, he turned to Mina, begging for help, but Mina immediately stumbled backward, terrified to even get close. What scared her most wasn't just seeing Kulai suffering, it was the fact that the dark sky demon lord's descent had failed. She couldn't believe it, remarking, not even the corrupt demon lord's poison was this strong. Whatever Lin had unleashed was beyond anything she'd imagined. She didn't waste another second. Crushing her teleport stone, she vanished on the spot. As she disappeared, the magic array shattered with a thunderous crack. The portal winked out of existence, and what remained of the projection dissolved into nothing. A system suddenly notified our boy defeating Dark Sky Demon Lord's avatar, granting him 90 million experience, all the while ranking up to 3-star Divine General. Lin let out a sigh of relief. Thank goodness that really was just an avatar and not the real deal. Still, the thought of facing the real thing made him uneasy. He suddenly recalls that the dude he had once killed was the Demon Lord's offspring. So if the true Demon Lord descended, he probably wouldn't be standing here right now. In the next scene, somewhere deep in the abyss, inside a massive castle, the real Dark Sky Demon Lord was still struggling. The poison, impossible as it seemed, had spread onto his real body. His roar shook the palace walls, filled with rage and disbelief, and he swore that Lin would pay for this. But his fury only made things worse. The toxic mist began to spread from the castle, spilling outward like a living plague. Nearby demons screamed and scattered. Meanwhile, back inside the eternal trial grounds, Lin tilted his head in confusion when sudden kill notifications started popping up. But after a moment's thought, he realized perhaps the poison was spreading through the abyss itself. What Lin didn't know, though, was that he had just turned the entire abyss upside down. As the mist expanded, demons fled in panic. The Dark Sky Demon Lord managed to shake off the poison, but the damage was already done. His fortress was a ruin, and his hatred for Lin burned hotter than ever. Hours later, Lin soared through the skies, the notifications still flooding in. 10 hours of flight later, his journey came to an abrupt halt, not because he wanted to stop, but because he had no choice. The place was anti-flight, so he had to travel on foot now. He opened his map and checked the location. Sure enough, he had arrived. Thunder Burial Canyon. Lin put on another layer of skeletal armor around himself, and he began moving forward with extra caution. Bolts of lightning kept cracking down around him, but none of them managed to actually hurt him. Then, out of nowhere, a massive ball of lightning appeared ahead. The air sizzled as something leapt out from it. A creature that looked like a lion wrapped entirely in crackling thunder. His detection spell informed him this was a level 75 Thunderlight beast. The creature's huge form landed heavily right in front of him, lightning dancing along its mane. But Lin didn't seem impressed. With a wave of his hand, he summoned his trusty skellies and told them to get to work. However, he hadn't expected the Thunderlight beast to be so fast. In a blink, its paw slammed across the skellies, smacking several of them through the air like rag dolls. Still, Lin didn't panic, saying it's not a big deal. He then used Skeletal Prison, locking the beast in place. As usual, what followed was a brutal gangbang. The skeletons swarmed in from all sides, and after a few waves of attacks, the Thunderlight beast collapsed to the ground. Just then, a blinding arc of lightning slammed onto its body. The creature's body twitched as it began absorbing the remaining energy. In the next moment, light exploded from its body like a miniature storm. With a feral roar, it shattered the bone shackles binding it, and the energy began expanding outward in every direction. Lin froze for half a second, clearly hadn't expected the creature to self-destruct.